this funny meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda.
Kyle, could we amend the agenda under approval of expenses to $7,295?
We can.
Thank you. We can explain in the report.
That's fine. Anybody else want to add anything or have any comments? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Bill.
To change.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks again. Public comment on agenda items? Seeing nobody, moving on to approval of minutes from February 9 from our regular meeting. Any questions? Any corrections? Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Bruce.
Second.
Thank you, Tamara. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Approval of minutes from February 24, our budget work session. We'll be working on this later, but would entertain a motion to approve those work session minutes. Anyone?
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Bill.
Support.
Thank you, Bruce. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Department of Public Works update. Looks like Mr. McCool is here. Thank you for coming.
Sure. A few things that we're working on with the DDA. Bill and I had a meeting with Kyle and Christina yesterday. As everybody's aware, the streetscape treatments are approaching 23 years of age. You guys are working through a process to look at either updating, changing, whatever that may be. However, there's a number of those items that require attention and require that attention regardless of what that future project may be. So both parties are looking at ways that we can fund in the interim some improvements such as brick pavers. We had started a process 3 years ago to go block by block and reset brick pavers to eliminate trip hazards, and I think it's prudent to put that on hold a little bit, until that streetscape decision's made. However, there are some areas that are dangerous and we need to deal with. So, working on some cost estimates and trying to figure out how to get some money in both of our upcoming budgets. The same goes for the streetlights. Couple issues with them. They're in need of repainting. If you look up close, you can see that there's primer showing through. They just need to be repainted. So I'm going to work on some estimates on what that would cost, and we've discussed several different options. One could be if we could fund the whole thing to go through the whole downtown and do them all at once. Another approach may be to do a block or two at a time, just depending on how that funding goes. The same would go for converting the globes to LED. Kind of the same thing. If you remember, we did a demonstration with Topline. They put 3 different globes down by the city marina. So we do have some idea of costs on those. Something that's happening right now is we've got a lot of burnt out lights. We were able to secure bulbs. It takes a little bit of time to order just about anything now, but we got bulbs. We went through, checked all the ones that are burnt out. Most of them, it wasn't the bulb, it's the ballast. So we're seeing the ballasts are burning out pretty regularly right now. And we've got the ballasts on order. When we receive those, the electricians will go through and replace those all at one time. A couple other things that we're looking at is the fountain. When that fountain, well, the manufacturer of that fountain is intended to be in indoor use, so like in a mall or an atrium or something. And so it hasn't fared wonderfully outside, even though we winterize it every year. I think within the first 2-3 years, corrosion basically ate away all the lighting systems, so that hasn't been lit most of its lifetime. We have looked into rewiring it with LEDs to give it some different colors and so forth, but probably 4 years ago when I priced that out, it was 10 grand back then. What we're facing right now is there's a lot of internal plumbing that has leaks in it, and we've done, my staff has done as much as they can, but it's probably gonna need a pull off each tier with a crane and kind of rebuild all that plumbing at some point. So we've talked about creating some sort of a maintenance fund for that. Same thing with the clock. The clock hasn't worked for a number of years. Just to get the technician from the company up here was gonna be a couple $1,000 just to come up, like a service call. Then they have to determine what's wrong, what needs to be replaced. But we would like to move forward with that as well. 3 years ago, the DDA funded repainting all of the refuse can surrounds, all the trash cans downtown. So that's complete. With the balance of the funds we had available, we also sandblasted, reprimed, and repowder coated around 10 of the flower baskets that we put downtown, and there's almost 50 of them total, but about 15 to 20 get put out every year, depending on what businesses request those. So there's still a gap between what we've already refinished and what's left are in really poor shape. So yesterday, I think I can get another 10 of those done within my operating budget. So I'm just gonna move forward with that, and that'll get us enough of those, probably for this spring's requests. This winter, we put a priority on the benches downtown. So we always pull all those benches in and store them inside. This winter, we disassembled every one of them. We fixed all the hardware, all the ornamental iron, sanded every piece of wood, and restained, and they actually get stained, and then there's a varnish sealer that goes on most of them. That's complete. We've got all of those done right now, so when they go out this spring, they'll be refreshed and consistent. Now we're pulling in the benches that are from the parks and other areas and working on those. So I think we've got about 75 total in the city, so it's a big task. Did I forget anything we talked about yesterday?
How many benches approximately are down in the downtown area?
Ooh, I don't know the exact number. I would say 20 to 25.
Okay.
We had 16 on order, but we probably put some other ones out that.
Yeah,
standard, maybe
there's
not
always,
really
there's ones up by the Ram still, they move around.
And
Yeah.
those are all the same color, because I know we did some down on the Riverwalk that were painted kind of red to match the,
Those are the ones I think in the marina, weren't they,
Yeah.
Kelly? Yeah. In addition, when the banners were put up downtown, one of the stipulations that we had was that they needed to come down during the wintertime so they didn't interfere with snow removal and the equipment. This year was the first winter that we had with the social district, so we left them back up, or we left them up. We did have some damage to the vehicles, mostly mirrors, but the mirrors on those trucks are $1,500 when they get damaged, or more. So I think we need to figure that out, like what's our liability? Do we need to keep them up? What can we do with them? And then I noticed in the Forest Festival draft request that you were gonna switch out some of those banners with Forest Festival, was that correct?
We may put some from where we put the Ramsdale banners in the marina area, and then from until before Division.
Okay, so just
But down by
wanted
the beach, we'll have all of
to,
those.
yeah, I assume that.
Yes, so yeah, we're working on something for that. I don't have that quite ready, but
Okay.
yeah.
And
And the banner, oh, go ahead.
No, finish
Oh, the
that.
social district banners. Could we turn some, Jeff, maybe in? We do have to mark for the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, we have to mark the districts, and we, of course, can't see the stickers because we can't guarantee there's no snow or ice. I would, you know, if you have another suggestion, I'm happy we could take some of them down, leave 5 of them up, or something just scattered through the district. Could we turn them towards the sidewalk?
For the maintenance aspect, the problem is for them to be clear of the equipment, they would not be able to be perpendicular to the roadway. So they would have to be turned kind of east-west, and then you really can't see them as you're traveling. So we're past the winter season, but it's something that we need to kind of figure out and find a compromise on that.
Discussion, but
And then liners, Jeff, do you think I think we ordered 10 or 12 of those. Do you think we need another 10 or 12 so that when we have the painting done, we can replace all of those liners?
That would be ideal.
Okay, I'll look at that order as well and look at the budget.
That would be ideal, however, we can probably piece together some of the old ones.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, they're 20-some years old, they're very brittle, they break. You put all that soil in them, take a minute out, they're heavy. And the ones that the DDA purchased and replaced are gonna be great.
Okay,
So,
so if we did the same thing, that company would work out? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay, I'll look at the budget and see if we can do that to those 20 that year, or the other 10.
just a couple other things. Maple Street Bridge, the rehabilitation's going very well. All the painting of the steel is completed. Now we've got a different contractor on site, and they're working on the concrete rehab. So weather isn't dependent when you destruct, but it'll be a little bit weather dependent when they pour the concrete and put the sealers and the surfacing on it. But that's, if anything, it's a little ahead of schedule, so we're doing good. Last night at City Council, one of our council members asked if the traffic signal could be adjusted. Right now, it's just cycling normally as if there were two-way traffic with only, with one leg of that shut off and the other one being a one-way. After this meeting, I'm gonna go look to see if I can convert it to flashing red and just allow some of the traffic gaps to flow a little bit better. The pedestrian signs for the center of the street, we've had those ordered for a while. I told you before, we packaged up a whole bunch of signage to try to reduce freight. Everything else came, but those haven't come yet. But I'm not alarmed by that. We still have a couple months before we need to get them out. Yesterday, through email exchanges, just FYI, because I'm on the committee, the Sleigh Bell Committee has decided to stop meeting and working on this next festival without kind of a host organization. They've kind of planned it out to the point where really can't do much more, so I think they're gonna send out something official to you guys, just to let you know that. And then the city is applying for a Riverwalk Grant before the end of the month for the North Riverwalk. It's about a $550,000 project. We presented it to the Parks Commission. I should have been thinking and brought you a rendering of that, but we can get you copies of that if you'd like to see. It's basically a full rehabilitation of the walkways and a lot of the landscaping adjacent to the walkways. When that was constructed well over 50 years ago, there's busted up concrete stacked for the walls. A lot of that's missing through vandalism. I know that they were been thrown in the water because we've caught them several times. A lot of the walkways are brick pavers, which have settled a lot. A lot of the brick pavers have been pulled and thrown in the river. A lot of wood treatments are completely rotted away. The wooden walkways, we've been replacing boards for years, and it's so bad right now that it's not safe to even replace those boards, so we've had it closed off for about a year. The new project would replace all those walkways with either a composite decking, PVC, or when they're elevated, all the rest of them would be poured concrete sidewalks. And the retaining walls would be like a segmental landscape block. It also includes pulling out the way overgrown landscaping, shrubs and bushes, and replanting those. It also has some additional upgrades to the ADA accessibility to some of the areas, and it has some stormwater treatments so that we are cleaning some of the water runoff before it gets to the river. It would be wonderful if the DDA board would write a letter of support to that. We submitted on this 2 years ago to the DNR, and our points were just below the funding range. So we've been working really hard to analyze where we can increase our point scores, and but any type of support from community organizations helps. And if there's interest in that, we'll just forward you a sample.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But we'd appreciate that.
The DDA and Chamber will both do that.
Okay.
We're talking about that.
I got a sample yesterday, so I'll send it to you.
Great.
And then the DNR is coming out Thursday, our representative. for this
Yeah,
area.
tomorrow.
Get to show them the site, which I think is gonna be helpful. So,
Yeah.
And Jeff, if you forward those plans, that'd be great. I can send them out to the board.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Thank you. Do you want me to email you? Do you want me to email you?
No.
Okay.
So that's everything I had on the list. If you guys have any other questions or require any other updates.
Thank you very much for removing the evergreens. I think it looks very nice over by the butterfly park. Is that what? Tree garden?
Tree garden,
park?
butterfly garden, yeah.
Yeah, that looks really
And
nice.
thank you for the benches and planters.
More evergreens to come, to go.
Yep, we got as much as we could in December when we had a gap in the weather. They'll finish up this spring.
Great.
Thank you.
Any questions for Jeff?
We also had, I guess the signs came in for the electric vehicle charging station. Someone's been parking in front. I got a complaint. I try not to spearhead this one because I have a vote, but there's been people who just park in front of them, and we need to have the sign before we can enforce. So they attempted to put it in, but they need to hand dig, and the ground's still hard, so they're gonna have to wait.
Yeah, it's all underground utilities right there, so we can chop a hole, but it's dangerous with the underground wiring, so it may have to wait a little bit till we get some thaw.
Where is that at?
Over by the barber shop.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
the
in the parking lot?
Yeah, these are the two electric vehicle charging, so there's 2 spaces in the parking lot next to Dick's Barber Shop, and then there's 2 in the Memorial parking lot at the corner of Fifth Avenue and Memorial Drive. One other thing, Memorial Drive will be reconstructed this summer. It seems like everybody complains about that. Monday, I just did the 60% design review of it. So we're on target to get that out to bid probably in the next month. And the crazy thing about kind of the construction world right now, if you order any type of pipe, PVC, ductile iron for water main, there's a 8 to 16 week delay in receiving those. So a lot of our projects are getting pushed back because they can't get the materials. This doesn't have any utilities. So I'm hoping the contractors will be chomping at the bit, but my dream is to get that completed before the 4th of July, but it'll be this summer.
Hey Jeff, and I'm sure you've already addressed it, and when you, so after this is the 31 bridge next, or?
It's coming up, yep.
And when is that? When are you perceiving that? And my question about that is, where will the traffic be routed? Because if you're fixing roads and things, and there's a heavy volume of traffic coming through,
Yeah.
do we fix them now, or do we wait till?
So all the work that the city is doing with Maple Street Bridge, with Memorial Drive, and we had planned to do a whole upgrade on Washington Street. And the city timed all that to get it done before the 31 bridge, so that all of the detour route and all of our local stuff was upgraded. About 90% of the Maple Street Bridge project is funded through a grant through MDOT. So that timing and the fact that that's part of their detour helped us get the grant. Memorial Drive, the state has pledged, I think, $125,000 towards that reconstruction because it's part of the detour route. But we expected a fairly large sum of money for them to participate in Washington Street, and they didn't have the money to do that, so we're holding that one off for a couple of years. The actual work on the 31 bridge is scheduled to begin in the spring of '23, so a year from now. I did get a preliminary schedule from the state, but it's not complete and they didn't want me to share it. But it is better than what we had expected. They're gonna do the opposite of what we did on Maple Street. Maple Street, we closed the bridge during the winter time to paint it, and now we've got it closed for the concrete work in the spring. They're gonna do the opposite. They're gonna start in the spring and summer of '23 and do all their concrete approach work, because the bridge can operate still for boat traffic. Then, when that's completed, they're gonna open it back up in the fall to traffic. And then in the wintertime, in December, they're gonna close it again and tenant and do all their steel work, and then reopen it again in the spring of '24. So there's gonna be two portions where that's closed. Their main detour is gonna be Stronach Road to 55 and around the city. The main purpose of that is heavy loads and truck traffic. And they were trying to say that all the traffic would follow that, but the city doesn't want that. We want that traffic coming through our community for the commerce. So that's why they participated in some of the local detour work. But essentially the local detour will go First Street to Maple, cross Maple Street Bridge. If you're northbound, you'll cut over on Memorial Drive back to 31 and move on. Coming southbound, you'll come up to Monroe Street to Washington, cross the bridge back to First Street. But we were afraid that we were gonna have 12 months of closure, and it's not quite that bad, so it's probably more like 6 or 7.
Jeff, if you're coming south and you want to go downtown, would it be to the downtown's benefit to have it be two-way instead of having to go all the way around? Or is that not a good?
There's been a lot of discussion on that, and I think even, was it Kyle, did you raise that to Bill? And so we
I
had
know
some
we've talked
internal,
about it a little bit.
somebody brought that up, but we had some internal discussion. That takes a lot of signage changing, because all the signage is facing westbound right now, including the traffic signal here at Maple. So, yeah, that would improve the traffic flow, but that would take a very large expense. And we still have the issues with deliveries and trucks and that sort of thing, so.
I think discussing it with the county, maybe the DDA does a traffic study to see what's involved, and then if they can fund those upgrades and do a trial, I think that's something this board could look at.
I'd like to keep it on the table, because I mean, businesses will certainly be affected through the cost of that as well. But we are looking at a traffic study, so that will certainly help in conjunction with the streetscape.
Yeah, and at a minimum, even if you didn't do the two-way, you may want to consider some temporary signage like on First Street. So if you're southbound, some type of directional signage that says, downtown, so people just don't skip it when they go past it. They know how to return back and get back to River Street.
On the main detour, you were suggesting the commercial traffic would be going through Stronic. Is there going to be a way to sign that where local traffic knows that the central business district is open, or that they're not trying to put everybody out through Stronic?
Yeah, and when I say the truck traffic, I mean, every time that we detour 31 in the city, that's part of the truck route around it. So it's really a bypass, so the trucks don't clog it up locally. But yeah, I can make that suggestion to the state.
I feel like I've seen that in other detour areas where it's signed sort of differently for central business districts.
Right, so, and typically what they do, or what has been done is, so if you're northbound on 31 and you come up to First Street, obviously it's signed very heavily for the detour to turn westbound, but on the type 3 barricades, they will put, local businesses open or local traffic, or so that you can still continue through First Street to get to River Street.
Okay.
It won't be a full blockage there.
Okay.
Maybe we look at doing there's billboards out that way too. Like a large billboard, Manistee Beaches, Manistee Downtown Districts, follow US 31 North. Open, yes.
I think there's a really important distinction that I hope gets articulated. We don't want all the traffic coming through Manistee.
Right.
We want to make it really easy for the people who want to come through and who are hungry or whatever, right? We want to make it really easy to bypass Manistee. Because there is nothing worse than people getting angry about sitting, in traffic when they could have avoided it. Right? So the signage issues are really important, but also our thinking about this needs to be a little nuanced. We have to make it easy to bypass congested areas for the people who want to just go north.
Would you or anybody on this board be willing to sort of stay on top of this subject and just be in communication with Jeff as this process moves forward?
I'm certainly, happy to watch, as I'm sure everybody else is, but I think there needs to be sort of a interdepartmental cross-government working group on this issue. What do we do with the traffic? We're looking at a lot of construction in a lot of places, and we don't want to make a mistake by accident because we didn't think about it.
Yeah.
But the thinking is all over the place. It's in the city, it's in the county, it's in DPW, it's in DDA, it's in a lot of places. There needs to be a place where this stuff gets discussed.
I feel like we've got some time, and it'd be nice to be more proactive than reactive.
So the time is gonna move fast, and I've been working with MDOT on this for 4 years, trying to plead our case that you can't just put everybody on our local streets and destroy them and walk away. And there was promises made 4 years ago about funding some of the local upgrades. And then I believe officials in Lansing have looked at how many millions they put into the detour around the 55 bridge and said, we invested all that money for that 11-mile detour. We're gonna keep using that and not spend new money to do a new route. And my argument was very similar to yours. If your plan works and you route everybody around Manistee Lake, you're gonna kill Manistee. And if your plan fails and people don't take that detour, then you're gonna put them all downtown and create gridlock, and that's not good for anybody either. So we've kind of come up with a hybrid, but we need to be working with them now before they bid it out. And I think they need to hear those local voices. And to further this, if you participate in this, which I hope you do, and I hope the city council participates in any other group, I think it would be worthwhile to get the officials here, let them hear what our concerns are, and make sure they understand. And why that's even more important is because when they complete this project in '24, then '25 is a year off, and in '26 they're gonna reconstruct 31 from Harrison Street all the way out to 55. Their current plan is to keep that open to traffic, so they'll do half-width reconstruction, keep everybody on one side, move them over, and then reconstruct the other half. But that still provides a lot of congestion, it still provides a lot of impact locally. The next year, they're gonna go from Mason Street, which is where the old chamber building is, all the way to Stronach Road with reconstruction. So the great news is there's over $20 million over $25 million of investment by the state in the community, but there's local impacts while that occurs. So I think it'd be worthwhile to plan this one and the next one and the next one.
Well, let's keep this on the agenda for continued discussion, but I'd like it if somebody would spearhead this and just stay in touch with Jeff and be a part of the conversation. So let's be open to a volunteer, but let's keep it open on the agenda, please. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
That's helpful.
Lots of good stuff.
Yeah.
I can see new black streets already. Okay, moving on to approval of financials from February 2022. You have those, I have those. Christina?
Nothing outside of the lines from what we're used to. The increase of expenses to the $72.95, we had additional services billed from Richards and McDougall in the amount of $565 from your original report. And just to let you guys know too, they were not charging us for QuickBooks. We now have a recurring $80 office expense for that, so I just line item into operating expenses. So that's the only change from what you received in the board packet.
Okay. So I think we need a motion to approve these expenses.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Bill.
Second.
Thanks, Tamara. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. DDA Director's Report. Christina?
We did one of our 2 required city presentations for the Chamber Economic Development and the DDA on March 1st. That went well. I will send you all the 2021 annual report so you can review it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask Stacy, Mark, or myself. We have a new business that opened Monday, did a soft opening downtown called P&L Sandwich Barista. So I enjoyed a turkey sandwich there yesterday. They're in the PNC Bank. They do have window signage. It's on the, as you're facing it, it would be on the left-hand side. Cute little, like, bistro type thing with cold sandwiches and coffees and such. So the Lakeshore Motel, even though it's not in the district, it will impact the district, and our visitors that come downtown had their project launch last week, Friday. There's been quite a bit of news coverage here on 9 and 10 just did a story yesterday. So we've also been fielding some new developer calls and such. It's definitely put some interest in some spark, which we knew it would do. But that's exciting for our merchant businesses downtown and even in the county. This affects everybody. The visitors don't just stay in one location, they branch out. So downtown's the heartbeat, but then they branch out and visit other areas of our county and hopefully spend lots of dollars. So excited to get that Hampton Inn and Suites of Manistee going. We've been working on the budget, which we'll talk about next. Also worked with Wheezy's. We're going to start with 15 planters this year. Ordered plants to match the baskets. And so we'll get that notice out to the merchants that they could, if they want to do it, they just help us with watering and things like that on those. But I hope that gives us a little more softscaping downtown that they all kind of are matching, and so that's nice. And then in the fall, they'll take those out and they'll put in mums and cabbage and kale to hopefully give us that fall look at the street level. And then Jeff, I was hoping those could stay until before the snow flies or until they look bad. So we might leave those just a little bit longer if we are blessed not to have snow in October.
Yeah, usually by the beginning of October, they start looking pretty.
Well, we're gonna replant them right after Labor Day. The baskets can probably go, but the planters on the road will have mums and cabbage and kale in them just for that fall season. And so Wheezy's will take out what the flowers that are in there and replant those. So try something new this year, give it some seasonal decorations before then Christmas or holidays will go up. Anyways, if we need to touch base, we can certainly do that, Jeff. I think that is the basis of it. Still working on a couple website quotes. Those are hard to obtain, just saying. I've been working on that one for months. I get one at a time. So hopefully just to do some website upgrades, but all of our information and our links are correct on our document page for compliance. And then I've been working with add-on the numbers for the treasury statement for last year. Our accounting didn't match, and so now we are all set and everything should be good moving forward.
Are you covering the economic development report, or is that just submitted?
I was just submitting it, but if you have any questions, I can try to answer them, or you can feel free to email Mark Miller directly.
Okay.
Some projects I'm involved in, some I'm not.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So we did give, I'll just update the Manchon name, we did give one grant application that was for Spicer. They added on those two buildings, that area on the building to the east, so they're gonna upgrade those awnings and the interior downtown Manchester, the rest of the building.
Great. Does that max that out?
Yeah, it's like a 25,000, they're gonna do more than $50,000 more.
Okay.
But they're asking for the full 25.
Oh, and we did, when we met yesterday, Jeff, I just want to let everybody know, because I know that's been a hot topic about cleanliness downtown. Again, we know it's a merchant responsibility to clear snow and, to help keep the sidewalks cleanly, but I know that Jeff said that they were going to do street sweeping, twice a week. And then when they have the opportunity, blow off the sidewalks to try and be helpful and make sure downtown's clean and ready for the busy season. So thank you for that, Jeff.
Yeah, and just to reiterate again, it is the property owner's responsibility to maintain the frontage in front of their buildings to the street, the sidewalk, sweeping and cleaning and snow removal. So the city does what they can and they'll continue to, but it is the building owner or the tenant's responsibility to maintain that. So just be aware of that if people are asking or concerned. I think that's a good place to start.
I'm going to have a silly question.
Yeah.
But when we pressure washed the cement on the Riverwalk, it made a huge difference. Could we do that on River Street, or is that just?
You mean the sidewalks?
Any concrete areas? I mean, I did some up in the parking lot where those charging stations are, and it did make a big difference.
I think the biggest difference you saw on the Riverwalk was probably with the shaded areas, right? There's less traffic down there, so, okay. I don't see why it wouldn't make a difference, yeah.
The element that really needs it are the limestone walls, the decorative walls.
And the lamp posts, the limestone lamp posts, or just the walls?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
all that decorative limestone, they're, you know, they've got mold and mildew on them, and that, I think that would really spruce up if those were done.
Is that something that you guys have the capacity to do?
I've already put it on the list. We'll see if we can do it,
Okay,
or if there's volunteer groups that want to work with us.
okay,
But I think it really stands out to me.
yeah. Does the city have a mobile power washer, like with a tank, or would water need to be? provided?
Not with a tank, we would need a water source, or I would need to run it through one of our trucks or something.
Okay.
And that cylinder washer was such a time saver. I mean, that was huge.
Yeah, we're gonna look at actually purchasing one.
Now you're gonna purchase that.
Yeah,
Could we power wash the stairs by the public restrooms? Could we do that whole area with plantings?
yep, that's probably another good area, but just like Kyle said, it's shaded, and, yeah, that would be a good spot too.
Do we have your permission to do it?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
Great. So that's on your list, and you're looking for potential volunteers. Awesome.
yeah, in fact, I even spoke about it with the Chamber's leadership, a member there, because I'm trying to come up with projects to nominate that they can help with.
Okay. Great.
I have a couple inserts here, if this is a good time.
Sure.
You guys say something? No, go ahead. Oh, okay. So, I know it doesn't say old business and new business, but one is one and one is, yeah. So, I just feel in, with spring coming up, yesterday I counted, and this has been an ongoing problem, but yesterday I counted just in our block, 6, between realtors, the new business, like volunteers, I'm not gonna just point out like exactly who, but there was 6 cars that were parked on River Street yesterday, more than the 2 hours, I mean several hours. 6 in one block is a lot, so I know it's happening on the next block, I know it's happening on Bluefish, you know, I know it's happening all over downtown, and I continue to hear about it from business owners that I talk to. I wouldn't mind going and talking to Chief Glass myself and saying, like, what can we do? Can we start giving warnings? Can we go talk to people? Because it's happening, and it's taking up a lot of parking, and there's a lot of parking available to business owners and to workers and to residents who live downtown. So where do we go? That's what I'm saying as a board. Where do we go?
I think our options are, we can make a request to the police department that they enforce it. There is an ordinance in place that requires, chalking tires and then waiting 2 hours and ticketing. So that's not been stomached well in the past from merchants, because of course they're afraid that customers would get tickets. But, it's got to be one or the other. It is somewhat, I've seen it happen, it is somewhat effective if an officer or the chief would like to just speak to the people individually, but that's time consuming, and that's totally up to the police department. So I'm open to options, but I think those
I
are.
can talk to Chief Glass about warnings.
I mean, I by no means want to be the downtown car police, who's in, but there are some offenders that I think if the police were to drive downtown every day for 5 days, they're going to say, that vehicle has got to belong, somewhere. That vehicle is down here all the time for several hours. It's very apparent.
It will never go away completely, and, we can spend a lot of time and energy focusing on it, but I think there's some few things that we can do that could be fairly effective for some of the violators.
I think we need to do something and then monitor that, in like a month. Has that worked? Is that effective? Do we need to do something else? It's just me. My employee, I came downtown on Sunday, I haven't been working on Sundays, and she was parked in River Street. It didn't go well. I just said, look, especially that Tim allows us to use one parking lot outside of May through September. And I said, really? That is like 10 steps. You could walk 10 more steps. And I said, so. I know there's not a lot of hours to give in the winter time to employees right now, but there will be 3 less on Sundays if I see parking there. So, I mean, I don't want to tolerate it either. And I know Sundays are slow, but it's just the whole.
Do you talk about this in merchant meetings at all?
We have a merchant meeting coming up on Tuesday, so I'll definitely bring it up again. It has been brought up in merchant meetings for sure, and it's been brought up just in conversation with anybody that listens to me, any business owner. So I've talked to several people about it, and it just continues to, until I think there's action taking, it's just words without action, or just words, so, yeah. I think we can make some better leeway. Okay.
Anything else?
Yes, so this is on a positive note. Christina had brought to my attention that we could apply for a $7,500 grant through a grant program that is offering $7,500 a quarter to different downtown areas to promote our downtowns, to bring in commerce. So I am going to take on some research regarding this grant, report back to Christine, and I believe you're going to actually and then, to assist me with it, correct? And that has to be in, it's April 1st, it's coming up quickly. So,
What is that grant through?
the Retailers Association.
Michigan Retailers? Okay.
And what is it for?
It is, it's a $7,500 grant to use these monies towards bringing commerce to your downtown areas. So, or actually to the county. I know I'm going to focus it a little bit on downtown, but it's actually to bring to Manistee County. And it's per quarter,
4 businesses, 1 per quarter.
correct.
And then you come up with your outside the box idea. It's your way to promote your people to come and spend dollars in your area. So
So are you applying for it on behalf of your business or the DDA?
No, the DDA,
Okay.
the whole downtown area. So the $7,500, right now, what has kind of been come up with, and this is just me, so I want to talk to other business owners throughout the county, not just Manistee, but throughout, that could benefit all of our businesses. Anyways, and it can be for marketing dollars, and it can be for, like, so, perhaps, so discover the 4 seasons of the GEM, Manistee, GEM being an acronym of Go Explore Manistee. So it's kind of play on, the word GEM, of course. So maybe we do something like if you visit a business and you get the little gemstone on your receipt, somehow you get a $25 gift certificate to a restaurant here in Manistee. So you leave maybe $2,500, so $5,000 towards marketing, $2,500 out to reimburse the restaurant owner, so they're not out that $25. But how cool is that to come shopping in Manistee and perhaps get a chance to win $25 to enjoy what Manistee has to offer. That is just some of the ideas that I've come up with and that I've taken up some of Christina's time running that by her as well. So, but I think we can come up with maybe some more out of the box or creative ways as I talk to other businesses.
Do you need ideas to submit for the grant?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, out of the box kind of ideas. So I know we have a lot of talented, creative people in our county, so I'm really interested or excited to, now that I can, walking better and all that, to make some phone calls and actually do some foot traffic and go talk to other places in Manistee County and see what we can come up with in the next couple of weeks and
Great.
submit that. So that's exciting. I hope Manistee is awarded that.
Thanks for doing it.
So if anybody here has any ideas, you don't have my email.
Thanks, Deanna.
Yeah.
Okay, we ready to move on to budget discussion? Christina, can we just pass it as is?
yes.
Do you want to go through it? And has has anything changed since our work session?
Yes, I did include the new balances of our accounts, so you can see the current total at the top. I added the line items that were requested at the last meeting. So overall, the ending deficit has changed by that amount.
Okay.
And then I didn't know if from our meeting yesterday, if we were doing something different somewhere, Kyle, or if that was just going to be included with this budget.
So where do we end up?
We end up about $200,000. Oh, and Ed did give me the new figures that he would like us to use projected, which were a little bit lower than what we would receive. So we're about 205, 890, 250. That we could use that on fund, we would take on fund balance if approved by the board.
Where does that leave our fund balance?
Well, right now we have total 583,468 with all of our accounts. That includes the land acquisition, the revolving loan, and the downtown dollars accounts.
So essentially, we'd be deficit budget of 205.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we spent all of that, our trend has not been that we have spent every budget dollar that we allocated, but we may spend more of facade grants that has been talked about with some developers, and I've been getting many more questions, Mike and I both, on facade grants, and that also goes with our beautification of downtown. So it's a good addition, I think.
Okay.
And that did include the $20,000 for an event coordinator contribution that we had discussed. And then we did put some funds in for engineering for, as we move forward on the bond, for streetscape plans, or any expenses that we would have with that we could utilize there. If that's something, if we did decide to do a traffic study, we could take it out of there.
Yeah. So basically, this was our entire wish list.
Yep. We threw it all in there.
That's what we wanted.
Phil, is there anything that you wanted to add, or from a city perspective?
Just, I got some good news. I got distracted because we got an email from the EDA that we moved on to the next round.
Oh,
wow.
So they wanted 15 requests for more information, so they want like a board resolution for that match amount. So you have to get it by April 8th, but some good news. So we'll have to have a meeting next week. It's not an award yet, but at least we're.
How many initially applied, do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's a good question. I could ask that.
How many moved on?
That's another good question. These are all things. So,
Maybe if we show them this budget that we're spending all of our money.
right, yeah. Well, I think that's why it's very other. Hopefully we get this, and then we add that 240 to spend, and that accomplishes a couple goals with that. We have 80,000 in here for the Riverwalk Plaza for next year, but obviously if we do that as part of the grant, that'll change some things.
Bill, do we need to approve that board resolution today?
So I think you approved it. I don't know if you formally, I think it was approved, and I think it's just kind of a more formal document of the approval.
Okay, I know we talked about it and the board supported the DDA
And
grant.
voted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we should, yeah.
I just didn't think that April 8th we would have another meeting, so.
Yeah.
Bill, what is your opinion on this amount of deficit for a budget?
I think it's quite a bit. I mean, I don't think we probably want to, you do guys, I think the DDA does have some fund balance, but I don't think we're going to be spending all this probably. I think a lot of it's going to be that engineering off the bat. The Riverwalk Plaza, I think you're going to be doing engineering for a little bit. Hopefully you can get some construction going. I think you will have construction next year, but regardless of the EDA grant. So I think we would probably trim out, are we actually going to do 50,000 in the facade grant program? So maybe we kind of, I could probably trim this down a little bit.
Okay. Just not having as much experience, I'm not really sure what's appropriate and what's, sorry, am I answering my own
Is
question?
this executive director contract is 75,000, the economic development contract is 15, so that's, both those go to the chamber? Yes. Okay.
Yep. They're two separate, they're two individual contracts, they're not combined.
Anybody feel free to chime in if you have thoughts or want to make some changes, so we can maybe pare this down a little bit. Do you think the engineering fees for $75,000, is that realistic for the next year?
I think if we're doing the streetscape, that'll spend that on.
Okay.
Did we want to make adjustments to the facade grant? Or did you want to leave that out?
What's the board's desire for facade grant?
What's the number we're targeting here? How much do we need to bring it down? I mean, the narrative in my mind is we had been, sort of stuck a pin in the wall that, this year we'd be making a bond payment.
Yeah.
Right? So we're not making a bond payment. And since I don't think it's a good place to be, a public entity that has a huge fund balance not doing anything, then we have, $100 grand that we should be spending, because we're not spending it on the bond. So, given that narrative, how much more should we bring down the budget, to where it should be? I don't know what it should look like, given that narrative.
Right, we budgeted 103 for bond payment, we spent 0, so I mean, that, you're right, even though we're 200,000 deficit, we didn't spend what we said we would last year.
Yeah.
I think the fund balance is what, 370?
Altogether, our balance, right now, we have 456, 199, 93 in our main account as of 3/4.
I think with that, this is kind of, the budget is kind of like a goal document. We can adjust it when needed. So if this is kind of how we want to proceed this year, I think we can always adjust it. If you would, I would just, I know it looks bad, but I think the other thing is the fund balance is getting built up. So if we want to move on things, I definitely think we're going to go through the engineering. I want to talk to the board about the next meeting. I'll bring a streetscape RFP for the board review, and then we'll put that out. I think the second we get a contractor to start on that, they're going to be doing the design and the construction documents. It's going to be expensive,
okay.
And we're going to pick elements we'd like. So the engineering is definitely going to get spent. I think as far as bond payment, maybe you have a bond payment next year, but realistically, that's going to take a good, would you say, Jeff, like probably 9 months of intense work getting through a design of streetscape?
Yeah, I wouldn't expect at the stage you're at that you would have a bond payment in the next 15 months.
Even when you're pushing it.
How many?
In the next 15 months.
And I just put that 25, or we did it as a placeholder, in case we had any, like if we were doing the letter of intent, or we had any fees for the bond, that's
Okay.
where I left that placeholder, but that
For
certainly
legal
could
fees.
shift.
I think legal fees probably would only be, I think, at most maybe 5,000 to 10,000 for the bond attorney.
We did put 5 in that line item.
Would it be appropriate to back out the bond payment altogether?
I think you could, yeah, I think that's more realistic. And then under professional fees, you have the legal fees of 5,000, so I think that would.
So do you want me to remove the 25?
And bring it up to 5?
Well, we have 500 legal fees, so technically you pay
Oh, I'm
that.
sorry, looking at the wrong, sorry.
You can pay that under there, but.
So the downtown development plan bond expenses, that's the line item we could remove?
I would think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
This does give us a lot of flexibility.
But I think looking at this document, it says we want to move forward with the Riverwalk Plaza, we want to move forward with engineering for the streetscape and some other projects, the hops and props. So yeah, I think that's a good document for a plan for the year. Budget shows too.
Okay. When does this go to council?
We have to have it in by March 17th, so we should vote on it today, or we'll probably have to call a special meeting.
Okay. And it goes to council in April?
I think they start the work
I think we'll
sessions.
still meet with Ed about it, so we
Okay.
could recommend this and it
Okay.
can still get, it's gonna get hashed out a little bit
Okay.
more.
I'm satisfied with that.
If we remove the 25,000, then we would be at a deficit of 188,92. It's okay with that.
I think a motion to recommend the budget with the change.
Second.
Motion from Bill,
Second.
second from Bruce. Any discussion, questions, input? Thank you. This doesn't require a roll call, does it, for budget?
You could?
All right, thanks, Kelly.
Kelly Grudy,
Yes.
Bruce Allen,
Yes.
Kyle Mosher,
Yes.
Tamara DePonio,
Yes.
Bill Gambo,
Yes.
Dina Marsh.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you, Kelly. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Bill, for your help on that. Okay. I think we're to public comment. Okay, moving on, board member comments. I wanted to read some just from Jody. Jody couldn't be here. She had a conflict with some staff, but she apologizes for that last minute. She said she did ask Tim Riley, who is the director for the CVB, if he would support adding to the next CVB agenda discussion on budgeting for a community event coordinator, and he agreed to adding the item. So she was going to add that today, so I just wanted to pass that out. And we have proposed that in our budget as well, supporting that position.
So now we just need to hear from the city to see if they be
Or the chamber.
or the chamber. Okay.
Any other board member comments?
Could I just add something for thinking, in the future? There's, first of all, the bump outs, which I hope were not just a COVID thing, that the merchants found them useful, certainly.
Oh, you're talking about the raised platforms?
The raised platforms.
Okay, for dining.
When, what the schedule is for those going back in, are we contemplating any more of them? The parking around the marina, which I'm really familiar with, I watch it most days. There are an awful lot of RVs that come and park around there, and some of them are there for days. My understanding was that, people drive down there and make arrangements at the marina, they need someplace, short-term to park, and that's not what it gets used for. And there are an awful lot, so that's one issue. If we want people to easily go to downtown Delights and all the businesses down there, and 5 RVs are parked around, blocking up all the spaces, I don't think that does us any good. And the second is idling engines. Those RVs are down there idling in the summer to keep their air conditioners on inside, which is making the place feel like a parking lot instead of a park. So I'm sure if I lived someplace else, I would notice other things, but we need to start thinking about this community in terms of the way it's being used by guests and the things that we want to make our community look good, and the things that are going to really turn people off. And I know I don't like going places where there are idling RVs when I'm trying to park my car and go to lunch. So I don't know who to bring that to, whether that's, city council or someplace else, but I think that we, a good place to start might be here.
I think it's a valid concern. It goes maybe hand in hand with Deanna's comments as well.
Yeah.
I've noticed also, trucks with boat trailers, empty boat trailers parked there for long periods of time.
Right,
So,
right. And we don't have any signage saying, we welcome that stuff at First Street Beach.
Yeah.
We got a great big parking lot, go down there, but there's no signage that says that.
There may be a way to positively redirect.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Is that part of the 2-hour downtown district parking?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it is
again, it's an
DDA.
enforcement thing.
Where exactly are the, I'm sorry, where exactly are they parking?
The Cornerstone Park,
The fountain area,
on Water Street and River Street, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
a lot of where the stamped concrete is by the fountain, right?
Yeah.
And then on the other side, across from your house.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
And what we want is people coming down there, and, now we've got we'll have a couple of restaurants there.
Yeah.
And we want them in the park playing shuffleboard. We don't want them fighting RVs for space.
Yeah.
Maybe we get signage, something that we welcome RVs at the, whatever the location is, and then in fine print, whatever the fine is. I would be paying attention to that, and probably people would if they saw something.
One thing that's not uncommon for some municipalities is to have overnight parking permits in parking lots. We don't have that, we don't really have a way to enforce it, but it's not that uncommon to have that as well. So if
Right.
you live downtown, you have a permit to park in a parking lot overnight. We do something similar for snow removal on the street, but thank you for
But
that.
the whole notion of how we want visitor parking to operate. And then, when we know that, then we'll know how to sign, how to enforce, but I don't think there's a whole lot it's sort of ad hoc now.
Yeah.
It sounds like the 2-hour parking will make you overnight parking, so. So I'll talk to you.
I would be careful of enforcing it though in front of the marina, because most of the boaters are transients, but they do have guests that come. You have fishermen that will launch, keep their boat in the marina, so they've got a vehicle up above. I wouldn't wanna deter the marina business. And the only other thing that I'm aware of is we prohibit camping. So that's always been a challenge with the officers on what is camping. Because we run into that in the parks all the time. To me, if you've got your awnings out and your slide outs out, you're camping, but so that's probably something we need to talk with Josh about.
Well, we want to make it easy for people to come and if somebody is in the marina, we want visitors to be able to come and visit there. If there are overnight guests among them, in RVs, we want them parked someplace. And we want to tell people at the marina, when you have guests, if they have large vehicles, here's where they park and get back and forth. And then that has to be combined with, a shuttle service going back and forth from First Street Beach. And
I can
people
see
know
you
each
doing
other.
I can see you doing that.
Yeah, right.
Golf cart?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's gonna be scooter rentals.
Oh, yeah, we discussed it at a study session, bird scooters. Yes.
Oh, cool.
Sounds like for the most part, council was in favor of, so I think we'll probably do an ordinance a little bit, so there's areas on, so River Street, you can't ride on the sidewalk, so we kind of keep it similar to bicycles, nothing on the Riverwalk, and they have technology to geo-fence areas.
Okay.
So the scooter would just kind of stop when they get to a certain spot that they're held up. They're much better, and I feel like they've had kind of a black eye when they used to drop these off in the city, so now they want a partner.
Okay.
And then they hire a local person, and there'll be a number to call, either rebalance or get one out of the if something's left on the wall. So, And I just wanted to, I think that is appropriate, thanks for bringing it up, Jeff, just if DDA has any feelings on that, or I think it would help just kind of traffic congestion too. If someone's parked at the beach, they could come down to visit a business on River Street. Usually they use it for about a mile.
Yeah. Is there a cost to that?
It's, there's a cost to unlock.
No, I mean, to the city or, so the
No.
scooter rental company provides it.
They do, and then, you know, there's a contract, and I did ask about revenue sharing, and it's, they would offer 10 cents per unlock.
Okay.
I think it's something like it's $2 to unlock, and then maybe a buck a minute, something like that. I'll get the rate.
Okay. Would that ordinance amendment allow for privately owned ones as well?
That's good. So I just, Chief Glass brought it up last night, so
Okay.
we can talk about that. I think it would apply. I mean, I don't think they'd say whether or not it's a vendor or
Okay.
a personal, so it'd just be an electric. They call them electric skateboards, so
Okay.
it probably just gets near a lot of like stipulations.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Bruce. Anyone else?
What do you all think about the placement of our benches and our planters on River Street?
Placement of benches and planters?
Yes.
So, more specifically,
I was thinking more symmetrical, more intentional, so
Okay.
it looks like a design going down River Street rather than these.
rather than requests?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like the idea, personally, I like the idea of more of a symmetrical. I sleep better at night with symmetry.
Okay.
What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I'm kind of OCD like that too.
So the background on that is when the streetscape was designed built in 99 and 2000, that's how it was laid out. And the baskets in particular were laid out, and in fact, irrigation and handholds were built. But a lot of the merchants didn't want them. And some merchants don't want the benches in front of their store, some want to. The planters, what the city quickly found was putting them out there didn't mean people were gonna take care of them. And so the current system is, if you request it, now you've got some buy-in, and you're gonna water them, you're gonna weed them, you're gonna care for them. Just putting them out there created a lot of maintenance, and that they actually looked worse. I'm a symmetry guy too, but that's why the current system is done that way.
So a lot of cities put their planters and their benches out away from buildings. Can you talk about that? I don't know if that's something we can do.
It's tough with parallel parking.
Yeah, you run into interference with car doors opening into obstructions. And we had that conversation yesterday. The physical location of the light posts were placed after the parking was laid out, so that the light post is in between parking spaces, so you didn't park in a space and bam.
But so could the planters and benches be placed that way as well?
Good. And I think if we're talking about replacing the benches and planters, I think when we go through the streetscape, they'll be recommending amenities, and that's it's gonna be a fun process. I mean, I think you're gonna enjoy that, just because they'll have different options, and the committee can look at it, so that's probably the time to do
Not
that.
before then?
What's that?
Not before then?
Well, we're talking about maintaining them, and I think it would have to be, I think looking at the whole streetscape and the benches and the amenities, I think it's usually how this goes when you redo a streetscape.
If you have some specific suggestions, or want to take some pictures of some areas, maybe you could look at some more specific spots if you have something in mind.
Okay. Would you want to do all the things on River Street?
Sure. Just keep in mind though, if you got this, like, so we were saying, the street light, and then a planter box, and then a street light, and a planter box, where that planter box falls, like who would be responsible for it? So if it's gonna fall in between two stores, or a vacant store, or, because if you're gonna go down River Street and sign ownership, or take care of, you know, maintenance of that planter box, that one store's not getting two because there's an empty building. I just think there's a lot to consider. I'm not opposed to it, I just think there's a lot to
So
consider.
when the city waters the planters,
The baskets, we don't water the planters.
but that's what I meant. When you water the baskets, you can't water the planters.
It would take quite a bit longer to do that.
Well, eventually it's gonna come down to that anyway, right? At some point, when this is all redone, people are gonna have things in front of their,
Or it would be irrigated.
oh, it will
Because
be part of the city?
Well, right now, the streetscape was designed for all those planters to be irrigated.
Okay.
Those lines were cut, but it could be
But that would be part
potentially,
of, so it would be the responsibility of the,
potentially. We're still not in the planning phase yet, but
yeah,
it'll come up.
okay. I understand.
Barry?
Just while you're looking at things, last summer, it occurred to me that this building in particular, with its long facade, needs some planters and benches out in front of it. And I hope, even if we're going with the old e-volunteer, that someone who's in this building would take it upon themselves to
I actually
make
did
that look
contact
nice.
Western College about that, so.
Yeah. Good idea, thank you. Okay. Thanks, Kelly. Anyone else?
And just the update, we met with Christina with the college about the Riverwalk Plaza, about who would do the design work and kind of the next step. So I think, talking with the college, they thought it would be best if Spicer did it, and so we're gonna be kind of waiting on this EDA grant, but we'll be ready to go if we don't get it, with getting the engineering ready and moving forward, so it's kind of been finalized, I think, at this point.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was a constructive meeting, just focused on budget, so.
And the college was okay, it sounded like with our 3-year
Yeah, the college
payment
was
plan.
still good with us paying that $250,000 over 3 years. Actually, very easy to work with. Okay. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Bruce?
Second.